Without further ado, we have two speakers tonight to talk about immigration. The first is a constituent of CD3 himself. If you want to come up now.
My name is Assad Alwaid. I am a resident of Eden Prairie for the last 18 years. I am a refugee or immigrant from Somalia. I came to the United States back in 1995 with a family of 7 kids, father and dad, a total of 9 people. Immigrants, they bring doctors, they bring lawyers, they bring mathematicians, professors, they bring some people who are uneducated, but once they get opportunities, once they get help, they will be able to thrive and be part of the society. Thank you.
From Linus Chan, an attorney at the Center for New Americans, to talk to us about immigration.
I wanted to place a little bit about what we're talking about in terms of immigration into some context. This is one of the most interesting images I've had. It comes from the 1850s, 60s period, and it's really a push about what eventually became the Chinese Exclusion Act. It is, of course, an example of the historical context of what we've been doing and arguing and fighting about when it comes to immigration in the United States. While right now, of course, there's lots of talk about the wall, this is a complaint that there is, in fact, a Chinese wall around the United States because of the workers and the Chinese people that were coming into the United States during the middle part of the 19th century. So, how long have we been fighting about immigration? Well, since the beginning of the country, right? So let's think about what happened at the beginning of our nation. We had a Revolutionary War, right? We had our founding fathers, we began a nation. But there were a bunch of people that fought for the British. Not every colonialist that was living in the United States wanted revolution. Many of them were loyalists. So what did we do? We had a new country. We had a whole lot of people who were fighting against the concept of the country, who were perhaps even taking arms against the people who ended up winning, the Continental Army, so on and so forth. What do? Well, we ended up granting a form of amnesty. We said, you know what? Let bygones be bygones. You are now a new country. If you want to stay in the United States, we'll allow you to stay in the United States. Now, it's very important to remember, back in the beginning of this period of time, there really wasn't a question of U.S. citizenship versus non-U.S. citizenship, because the states had a lot more say in what was going on, and most of the time the fight was about state citizenship, right? So this is the 1790s. Alien Sedition Acts, so on and so forth, even predates the Constitution, but this is what we are dealing with when we're dealing with immigration in the beginning. Now, fast forward a little bit, we are now dealing with immigration. We have people coming, right? We talk about the migration of people into America from both the continental Europeans as well as from Asia and going on and so forth. But who was controlling immigration back then? The very first immigration, people who controlled immigration were actually state officials. So the first ban also included people who already had visas, right? And once again, the idea, what a lot of courts said is that is not proper due process. You can't just yank a visa based on an executive order on this basis, and there seems to be quite a bit of animus towards people of a certain religion, and therefore that is not proper under the Constitution. The second ban tried to get around that by not including people who were lawful permanent residents and not including people who already had a visa. And so what the second ban really did was really try to target people who were only outside the United States, right? because the first ban ended up affecting a lot of people who were in the United States, or people who were in the air coming to the United States, or somehow affected the people within our soil. The second ban was really designed to go after people who are only outside the United States, who don't have any sort of legal status already. And that is a much more an area of law where we have already traditionally said the Constitution does not protect people very much. However, the second ban has been stopped for a number of reasons. One, because of a perceived animus against a certain religion, which is, it's interesting about how that's going to play out, about the First Amendment, because it's traditionally understood that even people in the United States who are non-citizens do have a lesser protection under the First Amendment than U.S. citizens and lawful permanent residents, but we'll see how that plays out. And a lot of that second litigation has focused on his campaign rhetoric rather than the actual wording of the ban.
The third and final of our listening tour. This was a series of 3 lectures that we had, invited different experts on current affairs, all for interested CD3 constituents. So our first night was sort of Civics 101 with Minnesota State Senator Steve Swedinski. Our second night was about healthcare financing with Andy Slavitt, formerly with the Obama administration. And then tonight, the third speaker was Linus Chan from the Center for the New American, talking about immigration in the Trump era.
You always, in your listening tour, you invite Eric, who else? Eric Paulson. Can you address that a little bit?
Yeah, we were inspired to hold the listening tours and not a town hall, because that's what a representative calls his visits in the community. He doesn't like to have a town hall meeting, and he calls his meetings with private businesses and unplanned stops in at constituents. With constituents, he calls those a listening tour. So we thought we would offer him an actual listening tour about the topics that so many people are concerned about.
And you usually reserve a seat for him? And
we did last night. We had a formal seat reserved for Eric Paulson, but he didn't show. So
I know this
with
is
or without him. With or without him, we thought we'd hold the listening tour.
This was a tremendous speaker here you have. It really, I think if Eric Paulson know what he was missing, he might change his mind. This is really, it was a very...
I've heard Eric Paulson I've heard a quote from him that he said his party is on the wrong side of this issue, on the wrong side of the issue of immigration, but we've never seen any initiatives or any action from him about immigration.
Well, thanks so much. That was wonderful.
Thanks.
We'll keep you in touch.